Hi, everyone. We'll be starting shortly. Hi, everyone. We'll be starting shortly. Okay, I think we can start. Hi, everyone. My name is Carol Chariot, and I'm the Principal Transportation Planner here at the City of Santa Clara. And I'm also the project manager for our Prune Ridge Complete Streets Plan project. I wanted to introduce a few folks that are here with me tonight. I have Michael Liu, who's our Assistant Public Works Director. I have Jonathan Yee, who's our traffic manager. And then assisting us with completing the plan is Alta Planning, and I have Ryan Booth with me and Ben Frazier. Next slide, please. Thank you, everyone, for coming. This is actually our 7th workshop here for the project. What we're going to be talking about tonight is just recapping the project history of the project, what you've heard to date, our progress on the project. We're going to look over the 4 roadway concepts once again to refresh your memory. We also want to give you a little update of what we heard at the City Council study session, and we also met with the county of Santa Clara, as well as they're a part of the project. Also, we want to talk to you about updates that we've made to 2 of the concepts 2 and 3. And then while we're really here tonight is to introduce a new concept called what we're calling the hybrid option, concept 4. We'll present to you the next steps of completing this project. And then finally, we'll do questions and answers. Next slide, please. And I'm going to let Alta go ahead and conduct these 2 polls.
Great. Thank you very much, Carol, and welcome back, everybody. So up on the screen, we'll have pop up some quick snap polls. The first one is, where do you live? Directly on Prune Ridge, within a few blocks of Prune Ridge, different area within Santa Clara, neighboring city, somewhere else. And the second question is, how did you hear about tonight's meeting? So we'll go ahead and give folks a few minutes there to answer those questions. You should be seeing a pop-up Zoom poll through the Zoom app right there in the answer. So great. A few more seconds here. If you're not seeing the pop up with the poll questions, go ahead and submit your answer in the Q&A section. All right, great. Close that, and then we can move on to project history.
Next slide, please. So as a reminder to everyone, this project's along Prunage Avenue between Pomeroy and Winchester. It's about 2.2 miles long. And on the west side of the corridor, you'll in Cupertino, you'll hit Apple Park. And on the east side, Prunage Avenue becomes Heading Street, which is in the city of San Jose. Next slide, please. So our project goals is to make Prunage Avenue a complete street where we want to improve it to make it comfortable and safe for all users of the roadway. So what we're really looking at is trying to improve bike and ped connections along this corridor. So as part of the plan, we have analyzed and we have summarized our traffic, parking, and collisions along the corridor, which we presented to you at the last few workshops. And then as part of this project, we have been trying to meet with you all along the way to get your feedback, as you know, now that we are in this 7th community meeting. So at every point in the way, we have tried to record your feedback. Next slide. And once again, we're here at workshop number 7, and you know, we have revised our concepts, and that's why we're bringing them to you tonight and introducing this new concept. In the summertime, we'll bring this plan to council for their review and consideration. Next slide. So what have we done to date? So we've done some initial community engagement at the beginning of the project. We have sent out probably around 7,000 flyers per round of workshops. We did 2 workshops at the beginning. We did online surveys, and we also met with some stakeholders as well to get their initial feedback. Then we had the consultants draft up 3 corridor concepts based on this initial feedback that we got from the community. Then after the concepts were developed, we did another round of workshops. And once again, we did online surveys, we did pop-up events, and we met with our Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee as well to get their feedback on these draft concepts. Then we also did some traffic analysis where we looked at parking, we looked at level of service and intersection delay, as well as travel time along the corridor based on the concepts that we developed. And we made some tweaks to our corridor concepts based on some of the feedback that we heard from the public from our online surveys that we had posted on our webpage. We then took those refined corridor concepts and presented them once again to our Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and also showed them the corridor analysis. And then we also had a city council study session where we took the project to council just to give them an update as to where we were with the project and our initial findings of the project. And then finally, we have done some coordination with the County of Santa Clara, as the County of Santa Clara has jurisdiction over San Tomas Expressway. So we needed to get their feedback as to the changes we wanted to do at that intersection. Next slide. And then with that, I'm going to pass it over to Alta Planning with Ryan Booth.
Great, thanks again, Carol. I'm going to jump into our 4 roadway concepts. Again, these were presented at the previous sessions, but we did make some revisions, which we'll talk about later. So this should be a recap for anybody who's been here before, and for anybody who's new, please follow along. So for Roadway Concepts, after we collected initial public feedback in our first round of engagement, we worked with the city staff to develop multiple design scenarios that responded to the comments we received. The concepts listed here are the current conditions, also spoken about as the no build option. We have concept 1, which retains 4 lanes throughout the corridor and would require park and removal on one side of the street. Concept 2 would reconfigure the lanes to 2 travel lanes, retain parking on both sides of the street, and would add a bicycle lane. Concept 3 is a similar configuration, except the change here is that the bicycle lane would be a protected bicycle lane by parking. We'll illustrate these and show you some graphics here to reiterate their points. All right, so getting into each one individually, first up is the current conditions or no build. This again is how Prune Ridge exists today. The no build option would retain parking as it exists. The traffic lane remains the same. Level of service, traffic delay would remain the same. Travel time along the corridor remain the same. Speeds, there would be no impact due to design. Collision frequency would remain the same, and no bike ped improvements. So that's as it is today, and would be the no build option. So moving on to options that did some configuration with the design of the roadway. First up is the 4 lanes with parking removal on one side, concept 1. So in our illustration here, a few things to point out is that this would narrow the travel lanes, which has been known to reduce speeds. This improves walking conditions by shortening the crossing length at crosswalks, but also separating traffic from the sidewalks a little bit farther. This improves bicycling by adding a marked bicycle lane on either side of the corridor. The number of traffic lanes remains the same, and it would require the removal of parking on one side of the street in order to fit all of the other items in. Another feature here to improve roadway visibility for drivers coming in and out of the driveway are these driveway buffers at the parking. So pulling the parking back from the driveways a few feet to allow drivers to get in and out of the driveways easier, and for visibility for anyone biking along the corridor. So in summary, for concept 1, this would maintain 4 lanes, so no change to the vehicular travel or minimal. No change to the level of service at the intersections because there's no reconfiguration. Travel times would not be impacted, and there'd be a possible speed reduction of 1 to 6 miles an hour due to the narrowing of lanes and adding of a bike lane. This would remove parking on one side of the street, but even after all that parking removal, it's estimated that the corridor would have 35 to 38% parking utilization. Moving on to concept 2. So this is the 2 lanes with parking and bicycle lane. As you can see here in the graphic, again, introduces lane narrowing and the reduction of travel lanes in total. This includes a center turning lane to assist drivers getting in and out of driveways. This improves walking by further narrowing intersections and crosswalks. Improves bicycling by providing a buffered bike lane, which with additional separation from traffic. Preserves parking on both sides, but as you can see here, also we added the driveway buffer to improve visibility for both cyclists and people getting in and out of their driveway. This does remove a travel lane, and it adds a center turn lane, like we said. All right, concept 3, very similar, except this introduces the protected bicycle lane. And so see here, the protected bicycle lane is a bicycle lane that runs along the curb, and it moves the parking away from the curb to the outside of the bicycle lane. So again, narrower lanes. This improves walking even more by reducing the crossing distance for pedestrians. This improves bicycling conditions over the previous one, providing even more protection and separation from moving traffic. Preserves parking along the street, does remove a travel lane in each direction, and adds a center turn lane. This original traffic analysis was performed in preparation for the previous public workshops. The chart here summarizes our findings of the impact of travel delay. The cells in the middle of the chart describe the number of intersections along the corridor that meet or fail the traffic service. And then the numbers along the right side of the chart represent the total travel time in minutes along the corridor. All right, so we brought these concepts to City Council study session and coordinated with the county. We met with the City Council on March 8th and county in mid-April. The main City Council feedback was they wanted us to consider options for pilot projects. And what a pilot project is would be a quick installation to show and test the feasibility and the designs and get more even additional feedback. City was also interested in considering reversible lanes similar to Lafayette or time of day parking removal. The city had concerns with the corridor travel time delay with the project, which we'll touch on again in a minute here. The Santa Clara County also gave us some feedback, and they had concerns with traffic progression along the expressways, especially with concepts 2 and 3. So we'll talk about what that means at intersections which are county owned. So updates from a previous presentation on concepts 2 and 3 to address those concerns. As a result of coordinating with the county, we revised the traffic analysis along the expressways. The expressways are owned by the county, and the city discussed with them the prospect of reducing dual southbound turn lanes to one turn lane at the intersections of San Tomas and Prune Ridge. The county expressed concerns of reducing traffic progression of the expressways with roadway reallocation on Prune Ridge Avenue. There's a heavy southbound left turn movement, the San Tomas Prune Ridge intersection, and thus it was decided to maintain the second southbound left turn lane so that queuing traffic would not back up into the expressway. This means that we had to include 2 eastbound through lanes between San Tomas and Saratoga. Our updated traffic analysis, which we'll present here, reflects that. So just to show again, the intersections of San Tomas and Saratoga are both owned and managed and operated by the county. So we have limited ability to change those, and we also need to coordinate with them on any changes to the corridor that we proposed. This is where we have 2 eastbound through lanes and 1 westbound lane for concepts 2 and 3. The second eastbound through lane would become an exclusive right turn lane at Saratoga Avenue, and we would retain the 2 southbound left turn lanes at San Tomas intersection. This is where we made the updates to the traffic analysis to respond to concerns from the county. So based on these new assumptions, our analysis showed minimum changes to the delay. It did not alter the thresholds for which intersections are acceptable or unacceptable. We expect that there would be less congestion for people getting into Prune Ridge from San Tomas. Even though we maintained the second southbound turn lane, this didn't change the overall level of service from the previous analysis. So in response to both the City Council and public feedback we heard, we'd like to introduce this new concept 4 called the hybrid option. So we created this to meet project goals and reduce traffic congestion based on the feedback we received. Under concept 4, a buffered bike lane or separated bikeways would be created along the whole corridor. The road would be reconfigured on the two ends here, as you can see, labeled concepts 2 or 3, with 2 travel lanes and a center turn lane. And in the middle of the corridor, there would be 4 travel lanes like there exists today. This would also require the inclusion of transition zones, as you can see labeled here, which we'll get into further. And we've developed conceptual designs to help illustrate these typical conditions that these zones would require. So again, in response to concerns we heard about traffic delay, this would be one option to incorporate concepts 2 and 3 in a hybrid fashion. You can see here we've got on either end concepts 2 or 3, which would be the lane reconfiguration with 2 travel lanes and a center turn lane, as illustrated here. We're showing concept 2 here, but it's concept 3 is very similar, and that's on either end. So from Pomeroy to Kiley, you get two vehicle travel lanes and either a buffered bike lane or a separated bikeway. And same goes for from Harold to Winchester. Again, that's concepts 2 or 3, which include 2 vehicle travel lanes and either a buffered bike lane or a separated bikeway. As you move towards the middle of the corridor, we have 2 transition zones. And that's helping transition from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, which would be required at the county intersection. So on either end, there would be a transition zone where, depending on which way you're traveling, you would either expand to 4 lanes or reduce the 2 lanes to fit into the roadway reconfiguration options of concepts 2 and 3. So beginning of the transition, the roadway reconfiguration to the hybrid concepts, include a 5-foot bike lanes with 2-foot buffers. The buffers widen to 3 feet when it becomes concepts 2 or 3. Our overall width of the roadway remains the same throughout the corridor, and travel lanes would be between 10 and 11 feet. So the transition zones would be from Luther to Gamblin on the west side of San Tomas, and also from Saratoga to Harold on the east side of Saratoga. These transitions would require the loss of 7 street parking spots east of Saratoga along the south side of Prune Ridge. Now to the meat of the corridor, the hybrid option. This would be retaining 4 lanes to meet the project goals and reduce traffic congestion based on our previous concepts. So here we would have in the middle of the corridor would be 2 travel lanes in each direction and a center turn lane. No parking in this core of the corridor, and that would accommodate buffered bicycle lanes or separated bikeways. And then as we move to the county intersections, as you see here, we would maintain the current operations. The buffered bike lane would make its way to the intersection, and then there would be what's known as a mixing zone, where vehicle traffic and bicycles would have to mix momentarily. And so this example illustrates what a county-owned intersection such as San Tomas would look like. Intersection improvement possibilities are limited at this time because the city cannot propose changes at the county intersections, but there may be opportunities to coordinate with the county on future possible improvements. So again, the 4 lanes with the turning at the intersections would be in the middle, 4 vehicle travel lanes with the center turn lane from Luther, Gamblin, all the way to Saratoga. So the main point that we're trying to convey here is that we developed a hybrid concept in response to concerns we heard about travel time delays. In addition, this option would provide flexibility to accommodate any potential improvements at the county-owned intersections of San Tomas and Saratoga. And just as comparison, in the morning, 3 intersections out of 25 would not meet the acceptability standards of for level of service. And so level of service for all of concept 4, you can see currently 1 intersection is unacceptable, and Tan Oak and Kylie would be added to that in the concept 4 hybrid. PM peak remains the same. Travel time delay. This is a model off of some this table conservatively assumes travel levels are pre-COVID levels. The increase is caused by waiting multiple signal cycles at San Tomas Expressway. A real-world example of this is San Jose Lincoln Ave and Palo Alto Arrestadero. Here showed travel times increase up to 17% after lane reductions. So summary of all of our analysis that we've shown here today. As you can see here, as we illustrated when we kicked it off, current conditions are the no build option. Doesn't touch the roadway as we see it today, but we also don't get any benefit. There's no possibility for benefits to address the concerns we've heard from the community. Concept 1, 4 lanes with parking, does narrow lanes and could potentially reduce speeds of up to 6 miles an hour. The revised concepts 2 and 3, again, that's revised to accommodate turning movements at San Tomas and Saratoga, would include lane narrowing, lane reduction, increase in safety, and a possible reduction in overall speed. And the concept 4 hybrid that we've shown does include narrowing, lane reduction at the 2 ends of the corridor with the transition zones and turning movements in the middle that we showed, possible safety improvements, and also potential speeding reduction. Parking and travel time impacts here. So typical parking available as it currently exists, 8 out of every 10 spaces is currently available. Concept 1, where we remove parking on one side, would retain overall 6 out of 10 spaces available along the corridor. The updated concepts 2 and 3 would retain 8 out of 10 available spaces, and same thing with concept 4. Travel times, as you see on the right side of the chart here, from the existing 8 minutes morning westbound and evening eastbound, you see an increase on concepts 2 and 3 to 16 minutes in the morning, and concept 4 11 minutes in the morning, 14 minutes eastbound traffic in the evening, and again 11 minutes eastbound traffic in the evening for concept 4. So traffic diversion and LOS, that's level of service again, measuring delay. As you can see, the current conditions in no build have no additional traffic diversion. That means traffic, also known as cut-through traffic. Concept 1 retains the same traffic patterns. Concepts 2 and 3, revised again from previously, may result in cut-through traffic, which can be mitigated through traffic calming measures, reduces the acceptable intersection level of service to 21 total intersections, and 4 increases it to 4 unacceptable. And concept 4 hybrid option, very similar results, but does improve one of the intersections to acceptable. So in summary, overall, the current conditions or no build option only provides a retention of current conditions. There are some benefits to concept 1 in reduce possible speed reductions and safety improvements, but there is an impact to parking. The revised concepts 2 and 3 has potential speeding reductions, safety improvements, and retains parking, but would have an impact to traffic delay and also improves walking conditions. And concept 4 tries to strike a middle ground there, and as was shown, mitigates the traffic delay as much as possible. So just to illustrate our point here, blue representing concept 1, the no build, or as it exists today, is the queuing or traffic delay as shown in the graphs here. Orange being concepts 2 and 3, the roadway reconfiguration, and green being the hybrid, again, which is the concepts 2 or 3 at either end of the corridor, the transition zone, followed by 4 lanes with turning lanes in the middle near San Tomas and Saratoga. There's morning delay and evening delay. So you can see there is an improvement with the hybrid, but it does still include some delay. So we'd like to open it up one more time for our third poll. Please rank the concepts in order of your preference. Yep.
Actually, can we hold off on the poll for a second? I think it would be great if we can let the community ask questions first.
Sure thing.
In case they have any questions on like the hybrid or anything before they vote.
All right, great. So we're going to open it up for questions. Keep submitting your questions to the Q&A box. Also, we're going to allow at this time you to use the raise hand feature, and we can answer your questions live. All right, looks like, let's see, got Ken Kratz. We got a question. All right, Ken.
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Ken Kratz.
Yep, loud and clear, Ken. Nice to hear you.
If I could have a minute or two, it would be nice. I did attend the BPAC, and you answered some of my questions that I had from the other day. I like option 2, and I'm wondering if option 2 would allow that the street between Prunridge, between the expressway and Saratoga, to remain with 2 lanes in both directions. Could we lengthen the 2 left turn lanes on the expressway, the southbound San Tomas Expressway, the 2 left turns, lengthen those so that the cars could queue in that longer, thank you, in that longer left turn lane pockets. And so we don't have to use option 4 at all. Now, if we can't do that, then I'm for option 4 with option 2 on the 2 ends of it. I think it's better. I'm a little worried about option 3 with the parking protected bike lane, because I'm wondering how the garbage cans are going to be placed once they're empty by the garbage trucks, and if they'll be able to hit those little areas where you put them out. I know in my neighborhood, if there's any wind, it tends to blow the cans either over on their side or blows the can towards the curb. So that would be in the way of bicyclists. And I know San Jose has these parking protected bike lanes in downtown, but I think it works there because they have very few curb cuts. They don't have isolated homes with a driveway at each spot. They have just occasional parking garages, and so they don't have those interruptions with garbage and people accessing their car that much on the street. So the other thing that came up at the BPAC was access by handicapped persons to vehicles. If you go with concept 3, that would be an issue because they'd have to get out in the street, and that would be in the way of cyclists because they'd be loading on the, normally in your scenario, on the curbside of that option. So also people unloading their vehicles from the passenger doors, the doors would be open. People unloading groceries would be crossing the bike lane, and that would happen. Or maintenance people putting in new carpeting, sewer people, all the other workmen who use vans and open the side, or even the rear for that matter. There'd be a lot of traffic going across the bike lane. So I think those are my worries. I think that people are a little over concerned with being protected. If you read the Effective Cycling book by Forrester, overtaking collisions between motor vehicles and bicyclists are very, very rare. So in your scenario in option 2, you got a beautiful 2 or 3 foot wide buffer, painted buffer on the road that would keep the cyclist away from the vehicles. So, you know, a mirror on a truck or something is not going to hit the cyclist, and also gives them a little room to go around driver's doors that happen to be open. So those are my concerns. I think concept 2 with the extended left turn lanes on Santa Mas would be preferred. And if we can't get that, option 2 with option 4. And again, if you could answer my question about extending those left turn lanes on Santa Mas Expressway. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Kratz, for that question. In terms of extending those southbound left turn lanes, that ultimately would have to be the decision of the county as it is their intersection. But I will tell you that it's most likely, highly unlikely that they would do that, as when we presented the results to them, with it just being a road diet throughout the whole corridor, it ended up being a queue length of about 900 feet for that southbound left, which is approximately about 36 cars. So my guess is that Santa Clara County most likely would not allow to extend it that far back. And that's why we came up with this hybrid option to reduce the queue that would build up there.
Right, great. Thank you very much for your question. And looks like Diane also has their hand raised.
Hi, yeah, I was also at the BPAC yesterday. First of all, on the concerns of Santa Mas, I'm thinking right now we have the 2 lanes in each direction at Lawrence Expressway, which is probably at least as busy as Santa Mas. And as far as I know, they've done a study and it hasn't really impacted people turning. Correct me if I'm wrong. So if we can do it on Lawrence, I don't see why we have to do something special for Santa Mas. My other concern about the merging bit is I've driven the Caldecott Tunnel for many years, actually, when it was 3 bores instead of 4 bores before they added the 4th bore. And traffic, when cars have to merge, traffic backs up for miles. Now it will back up for miles on Prune Ridge, but it could back up for blocks. And I know that they said they accounted for that in the analysis, but I'm just concerned that people being people, not automated cars for the most part, you know, I think it's going to back up more than the analysis takes into account, and that will probably slow people down more than whereas if you have just an even 2 lanes the whole way along, people are going to go maybe a little bit slower, but they're going to go steady. They're not going to back up. They're not going to crunch up and all that. So I think it's better for safety. It's better for speed to just keep it the same all the way along from Pomeroy to Winchester. So that's what I got to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Diane. So we've got another question here with a hand raised from Jason. Hello, Jason.
You hear me?
Yes.
All
loud and
right.
clear.
So just trying to clarify the question I had, the text question I asked. But basically, I'm trying to figure out how options 2 and 3 work. Do they all basically become, is the hybrid option the only way to do 2 and 3 at this point around San Tomas Expressway? Or, yeah, I'm trying to figure out what gets lost. If you need to have 4 lanes around San Tomas Expressway, then is the parking gone? Is the bike lanes gone? Like well, it sounds like the bike lane's not gone, but.
So Jason, at the intersections of San Tomas, this is what we've modeled this illustration off of here. The bike lanes stay. The parking, which is actually restricted currently as the approach of San Tomas, is not there, and the addition of the turn lane. And so you can see here that there is a bike lane that remains, and there's a waiting area at the light there. This is for the concept 4.
Okay, so for options 2 and 3, or concepts 2 and 3, are those basically only viable as hybrid options due to the county's requirements?
No, for concepts 2 and 3, the only change you'll see there is from, let's see if you can get to it, is from San Tomas to Saratoga, because we'll be keeping 2 southbound left turn lanes, and then which means we'll have 2 eastbound through lanes between San Tomas and Saratoga. And then that second eastbound through lane will drop off and become an exclusive right at Saratoga. So then you'll have that roadway reconfiguration again.
Okay, I think I got it.
I
Yeah.
guess, Ryan, could you go to a prior slide just to point that out? It's the one with the aerial grayed out, but we have the box around that specific change.
It's lower down here. Let me find it.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, I think it's right there. So I think just to confirm what Carol was mentioning, so the only change for concept 2 and 3 is that the eastbound direction, as shown on the right side of the screen, it would be 2 lanes, a bike lane, and no parking. And we just wanted to highlight that there is no parking on street today. So
Right.
that would be the only change.
So, oh, I see. And then the westbound direction would go to a single lane, and that's where the bike lanes would come from.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Jason. Let's see, up next, Mark.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much, Mark.
Hi. Yeah, I do appreciate all these different webcasts that you have. I feel like you're actually responsive for feedback. And so I wanted to say I've been here in Santa Clara for quite a long time. And I bought specifically here because I don't like commuting and I don't like long commutes. Otherwise, I would have bought somewhere else, like in East San Jose or somewhere around Evergreen or something. And I'm all for bicycle lanes, but I'm not for reducing the amount of through traffic that goes through the area because that'll slow down commutes. I do have a question about whether some people who don't want to speak up whether their voices will be heard, is there a way that someone can have put this kind of thing to kind of a vote or something, so that not only the people who want to speak up are heard, and in terms of which concept they would like or which concept they would not like? So that's kind of my question.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. So ways to stay involved. We have a email line, which we've been receiving comments since the start of the project. There's also a voicemail line. There'll be a survey with all the things we've presented today on the project website, santaclaraca.gov/pruneregev. And that project website has all of the documents and pieces that we've presented to date. So that's your kind of landing zone for all things Prune Ridge Ave. And so feel free to follow up with additional questions by either sending us an email or dialing and leaving a voicemail at the number below.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and Mark, probably early next week, we will have an online survey, as Ryan had mentioned, which people that could not make it can still vote on their preference for all the concepts. And then also we will have the recorded video on the project website as well, in case people couldn't make it, so they can at least watch this presentation before they vote.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. My vote is for either no build or the first concept, where you add a bike lane but keep the 2 lanes in each direction.
Great, thank you. And after this question and answer, we will have you all vote as well.
Great questions. Thank you very much for participating today. We'll give you another minute. If anybody has any questions they'd like answered live, again, you can always type in a question into the Q&A. Got some folks working in the background. All right, looks like John has a question.
I just want to make a comment. I actually live along the stretch of heading that went through this a couple of years ago, and the speeds are down by quite a bit, but the throughput of the traffic seems to be about the same. During commute times, the traffic will back up in the entire block, but in the before times, the previous configuration, it'd be half the block in 2 lanes. So now it's the entire block in 1 lane. It's about the same. But I live at one of the intersections where the sight lines are bad, and used to be accidents all the time, and there's been really a decrease in accidents along that stretch, and the speeds are down. So just giving a little input of what we've seen here in the San Jose side of a similar kind of reduction in the road capacity. So I'd go for the hybrid with 2 or 3, leaning more towards 3.
All right, great. Thanks, John. I appreciate your observations. Jeff Zell, you're up next. All right, go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks. Seems like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again, expecting different results. Seems like we're doing this again. It was sort of frustrating. My understanding is, if I'm correct though, option 2 matches what is along Heading Avenue. Is that correct right now?
Yeah, that'd be a similar configuration.
Okay. Can we get that one, or do we have to do option 4 because of the hybrid, because of the intersection issues, or can we just do option 2 and move forward with this?
So option 4 presents an improvement in traffic delay at those intersections. So we can explore that, and when we vote and present it to council, we'll present it as all 4 options.
Okay, but just to be clear though, option 4 is essentially option 2 with traffic improvements at those intersections.
Yeah, that's a good summary. That's right.
Perfect. There should be no reason to not vote for it if it matches heading. And because I think, what do they call it, the bike lane away from, or the protected bike lane for option 3, They do that downtown San Jose. It's a disaster.
And
I'm
Jeff,
all in
just to
for
be
option 2 or 4. Thanks.
great. And just to be clear, option 4 does not include the bike lane, or it expands to 4 travel lanes in the middle of the corridor as we showed. So it is a little different, but it's option 2 and 3 would be the same on either end of the corridor. It's just the middle of the corridor, which has the transition zone, and then the expanded travel lanes in the middle. That's the hybrid option.
Got it. But it's essentially option 2 though, right? Basically with the extra transitions.
Yeah, but modified in the middle. Right.
Perfect. Love it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we've got a few more questions here. John's next. Okay, it's like John lowered their hand. All right, Gabby, you're up next here. Go ahead.
Hi there. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate the work that the city has gone through to put these together. And I understand people have different opinions on the different concepts. I just, for the, if it ends up going with the no build option, I really would encourage the staff and council to at least consider and put forward, speed reductions on Prune Ridge, because I think it's a pretty well-known fact that reducing driver speeds is, a big component of reducing collisions and making it a safer environment for everybody, not just for the cyclists, not just for the pedestrians, but for other drivers as well. So, regardless of whichever concept goes through, I really hope that the city is taking, is making it a priority to make it safer for everybody by actually reducing driver speeds on Prune Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Gabby. Next, Leroy, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah, hi, this is Jen Rodriguez, Mrs. Leroy Rodriguez.
Oh, there you go. Thank you very much.
So it seems like option 4 extends headings configuration further east and extends the configuration we have now between Lawrence and Pomeroy further west, but then there's still a transition point in the middle. So it's like the two ends are getting closer together, but then we still have this this transition we have to go through in the middle. So keeping that confusion of lanes narrowing and getting wider and narrowing again, which doesn't seem ideal to me. And I asked a question in the Q&A I didn't see answered. So we talk about the level of service not being acceptable at some of the intersections, and I'm wondering how it compares to the same stretch along Homestead or along Stevens Creek. Is the level of service that's being called unacceptable, is it better than what we get at Homestead and Stevens Creek, or are Homestead and Stevens Creek level of service better and the traffic could move from Prune Ridge over there?
Ryan, I think you could probably bring up that graphic that shows the level of service at the study intersections. So Ms. Rodriguez can see there. So if you can see, Ms. Rodriguez, we did look at about 25 intersections. We didn't go down as far as Stevens Creek. Mainly we were sticking close to the Prune Ridge and then some parallel corridors adjacent to Prune Ridge, just to capture any cut through traffic that may occur if we happen to narrow Prune Ridge. So you'll see in the morning, we have 22 intersections that would operate acceptably. and then 3 that would operate unacceptably. And then in the evening, we have 25, and then which all would operate acceptably.
Mhm. So if people found it unacceptable in the morning, they could take Homestead. I see all green circles on Homestead between Lawrence and Stevens Creek and have it acceptable.
Mhm.
So there are alternatives without going to the hybrid option, which leaves all the lane negotiations.
So this one actually is the hybrid option. Ryan, can you go to the other one, which shows for concepts 2 and 3? There we go. So this is for if we went with concepts 2 or 3. Yes, you could still see that along Homestead, they're all operating acceptably, and along Mauricia. So there is a potential if, you know, the community didn't want to take Prune Ridge, there are other options like Homestead and possibly Stevens Creek as well.
So it could even wind up reducing the traffic on Prune Ridge.
It could possibly, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great feedback. Thank you very much for your question. A few more here. We got Vivek up next.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Hi. I'll make actually 3 points here. First of all, I think this is an important observation that I hope the city is taking into consideration, that the stretch between San Tomas and Lawrence Expressway is a purely residential area with a park where kids play towards Prune Ridge, and also a school, and a lot of people on the streets going to the park and so on. So whatever decision we end up with, the safety of people between this very residential stretch needs to be, it's very important in my opinion. The second point I wanted to make was, recently in the last few days, I think as companies have started opening, and I think next week Apple is also opening, I've already started observing, since in the morning I go and drop my kids, that Stevens Creek has lesser traffic than Prune Ridge. Prune Ridge has actually become the preferred way to zip between San Tomas and Lawrence, which I mentioned in the first point is actually purely a residential area with a school and kids play area and so on, and a park. So that is a very important consideration, that actually we have made this stretch the preferred way for people to zip between these 2 expressways, and it's unsafe. I mean, that's one of the big things that people have shared. The other sort of my suggestion to the people who are looking at these redesigns is to, I think somebody else also made this point, that we need to keep this uniform, because the moment you make this whole flow not uniform, like switching between 2 lane, 1 lane, it creates confusion. Right now, I see tremendous amount of confusion where, if you go down towards the west on Prune Ridge, before Pomeroy, suddenly one of the lanes becomes a right-only lane to go on to Pomeroy on Prune Ridge. So, those are the 3 things I wanted to highlight as we look forward into this redesign. So it's residential. Second is, this has become a zip through for 2 expressways, traffic going between these 2 expressway, a very residential area, and we should think about uniform flow.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Vivek, for your comments and your observations.
Ryan, I think it would be great, maybe if you could show that slide again, showing the speed reductions that you would get based on the different concepts, that so people can see, if they were to choose which alternative. you can see the potential reductions in collisions and speeds depending on which concept you would be interested in.
All right.
Okay.
Last call for questions here. And if not, we'll move on to the poll for which concept you prefer. All right, let's move on here. Oh, we've got Diane with a question. All right,
Can you
go
hear
ahead.
me? Yeah.
Yep, we can hear you now, Diane. Thank you.
Why are we going ahead looking at options 2 and 3 if the county has said they're not acceptable? So to me, this is an exercise in futility because they're going to get their way at the end of it all.
So we revised, so at the beginning of the presentation, we showed you options, concepts 2 and 3 as we previously presented. We took the feedback from the county, and then we also then revised the concepts there. So concepts 2 and 3 are still possible with the revision concerning the turn lanes at San Tomas. That's
okay. So it doesn't have to be 4 for the county to approve of it.
That's correct.
Correct.
4 introduces the hybrid option, which takes away the roadway reconfiguration in the middle of the corridor and reduces traffic delay compared to just options 2 or 3.
Okay, and I would suggest as consultants that the next time you do a project that involves county or state input, that is something that you get off the top so that you don't have to waste time designing something they're not going to approve of. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Diane. Okay, great questions, everybody. Thank you for participating tonight. We'll move on to the poll for preferred concepts. Ooh, Ken, we'll get one more question. Ken, let's open it up for Ken. Ooh. Ken just lowered their hand. Okay, so moving on to the poll, final call. We'll Zoom poll 3. So we're gonna ask you to select your preferred alternative. We're gonna do it in ranked choice. So please rank your choices from 1 being your most preferred to 5 being your least preferred. Each one gets a number. And we're gonna rank choice, and we'll show you the results here in a moment. So again, that's most preferred option to 5 least preferred option. Give folks another half a minute here or so to put their preference in. All right, just a few more seconds. Go ahead and rank your preferred options from 1 being the most preferred to 5 being the least preferred. Just a few more seconds here. And again, we'll post these results, and you can always get in touch with us. We'll put those sources to either send us an email or voicemail back up on the page before we close it out here. You can always visit the project website.
And you'll get to vote one more time if you like online, an online survey that we'll post probably next week after this meeting as well.
All right, I think we'll go ahead and close this poll. Are we able to, there we go, display these results here. So out of 24, Okay, we've got 24 voters total. It's like great. And these will be recorded and incorporated into the feedback we receive for the whole project and presented at council.
Ryan, could you show the results?
Okay, the results are up now. Carol, are you able to see those?
No.
They're up, Carol. Sorry, you might just not be able to see them.
Oh, okay. Can you at least state them for me, Ryan, please?
So the display that I have here is kind of.
Want me to help you out there, Ryan?
Yeah, please. It's I have a graphic display. I don't have numbers, so it's.
So in terms of the no build existing condition, we had about 40% of people have that as their first preferred option. 13% is their second preferred option. 8% as their third option, 0% as their fourth, and 40% as their last option. For concept one, the 4-lane option, 4% have that as their first choice, 25% their second, 17% their third, 29% their fourth, and 17% their fifth. Concept two, 2 lanes, that had 38% as their first option, 17% their second, 17% their third, 25% their fourth, and 0% their fifth. Concept three, protected bikeways, that had 8% their first, 17% their second, 17% their third and fourth, and 33% their last option. And concept four, the hybrid option, had 13% as their first option, 29% as their second, 38% as their third, 4% as their fourth, and 13% as their last.
Great, thank you, Ben. Looks like we had about 24 voters. So again, we'll have a survey with the same information here that you'll be available up on the project website, where you can submit your preference just like you did today. And if you need more time to think about it or need to review the materials, all that'll be posted to the project website, and you'll have an opportunity to submit your preference. All right, so next steps we're looking forward to. We'll release the draft plan upcoming this summer based on comments received from community input and council. We'll revise draft plan, submit that later in the summer, and then we'll present all of our findings, including the concepts presented here today and all your feedback to City Council in early autumn. Again, ways to stay involved here. The survey that we just took will be posted again to the project website, along with all the information presented here today and to date. You can always send us questions or comments at the email here, PrinRidgeAvPlan@altago.com. And you're also welcome to leave a voicemail message at the number here. And always, please keep participating. Please give us your comments, and feel free to also attend future City Council meetings, which we'll be discussing the topic today. Okay, any remaining questions? Look at Ken. Looks like Ken's hand's raised. No, one more question from Ken.
Yeah, it's about option 3. How do you plan to, or have thought about how that portion of the bike lane would be kept clean with a street sweeper? If you have a protected a parking protected bike lane, how do you get the sweeper in there? You move the cars? I mean, how are you going to do that?
That's a good consideration, Ken. And in municipalities that have widely implemented protected bike lanes, there are specially sized sweepers or attachments that'll fit on city equipment. Having street sweeping days would also accommodate that if there's no physical barriers. Sometimes the separated bike lanes can include a physical barrier as well. But it is a concern that has not only for cities with trash, but also cold climate cities that have snow. There's options that exist.
Okay.
Thanks again for your question, Ken. We appreciate it. All right, just hold for any further questions. Otherwise, we'll end our session here today. Again, thank you everybody for attending and participating. Just one more time, you can see at the bottom of the screen here, we've got that email address for you to send us your questions and comments, voicemail only line, and please visit the project website with all the information that we've presented today and to date. All right, with that, again, everybody, thank you. Thank you for attending and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everyone.